Genesis chapter 5 looks like nothing but a list of names: Adam, Seth, Enoch, Methuselah. But hidden in this chapter is the story of life and death itself. Why does everyone's story end with the same words, "and then he died"? And why does one man, Enoch, break the pattern and walk straight into eternity? Stay with me, because Genesis 5 isn't just ancient history. It's your story, too. Before we open Genesis chapter 5, let's step back for a moment. Genesis 1 through 4 told us the beginning of everything: creation, the fall, and the first family. Now we come to Genesis 5. At first, it looks like a list of names and years, but this chapter is not filler. It's a bridge. It connects Adam, the first man, to Noah, the man of the flood. It's here to show us the cost of sin, the certainty of death, but also the hope of life for those who walk with God. So as we begin, don't think of this as just genealogy. Think of it as theology written in family history, a reminder that every name matters, every life matters, and God's story never stops. In the ancient world, genealogies weren't boring filler. They were the backbone of history and identity. Genesis 5 was written to show that humanity continued after Adam's fall, to remind Israel that they came from a real line of people chosen by God, to prove that sin brought death to every generation except one man. This chapter is theology in narrative form. It shows the curse of sin, the hope of God's promise, and the legacy of faith passed down. The chapter begins when God created mankind. He made them in the likeness of God. That's the foundation. Even though sin had entered the world, humanity still carried God's image. Adam had a son, Seth, in his own likeness, in his own image. Humanity still bears God's image, but now it also carries Adam's, fallen, mortal, broken. Theology here is simple but profound. We are made for God, but we inherit sin. That's why everyone in this chapter ends the same way. And then he died. Listen to the rhythm. Adam lived, and then he died. Seth lived, and then he died. Enoch lived, and then he died. It repeats like a funeral bell tolling across generations. Romans 5:12 explains it. Through one man sin entered the world, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people. This is the bad news, but the chapter also carries good news. When we reach Enoch, the pattern shifts. Instead of, "and then he died," we read, "Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more, because God took him." Enoch shows that intimacy with God can overcome the power of death. For 3 centuries, Enoch lived in step with God, and then God simply lifted him out. Death did not own him. The message is powerful. What matters most is not how long you live, but how closely you walk with God. Methuselah lived 969 years, the longest in the Bible. Almost 1,000 years. And yet, the line still ends. And then he died. Methuselah teaches us this: longevity is not legacy. Years do not equal meaning. Enoch, who lived only 365 years, left a testimony of faith. Methuselah, though he lived the longest, is remembered mainly for his age. The theology here is sharp. What matters most is not the number of your days, but the faith of your walk. Then comes Noah. His father Lamech names him with hope. He will comfort us in the painful toil of our hands caused by the ground the Lord has cursed. Even in a chapter full of death, God plants a seed of redemption. Noah's life would bring comfort, not because he was perfect, but because God would use him to preserve life through the flood. Theologically, Noah points us forward to Christ. Just as Noah was a savior for his generation, Jesus would be the ultimate savior for all humanity. So what does Genesis 5 teach us? 1. Life is a gift. You were created in God's image. 2. Death is real. Sin has passed to every generation. 3. Faith is the difference. Enoch shows us the power of walking with God. 4. Hope remains. Noah points to God's redemption plan. This chapter reminds us that though sin brings death, God's promise of life is still alive. Your story is being written right now. Will it just say, and then he died? Or will it echo like Enoch, he walked with God? That's the choice before every one of us. Thank you for watching. If this helped you see the Bible in a new way, hit like, share with a friend, and subscribe for more simple Bible storytelling. And remember, your walk with God today shapes your legacy tomorrow.